What if the most feared number in human history wasn't about the future at all? What if 6666, the number you were told represents a coming antichrist, a final enemy, a global catastrophe, was actually pointing to someone who had already lived, ruled, and died? And here's the real question. If the original audience of the book of Revelation could understand the code, why were you taught to look for it thousands of years later? Tonight, we're not speculating, we're decoding, and once you see it, you won't read Revelation the same way again. So before we go any further, subscribe, because this isn't just about theology. It's about what happens when a message is hidden in plain sight and then misunderstood for centuries. Let's start with the verse that started it all. Revelation 13, verse 18. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. Stop there. Did you catch it? Calculate. Not guess, not wait, not speculate. Calculate. That word alone changes everything because it tells you something critical. This was meant to be solved by the people reading it at the time, not us, them. So ask yourself, what kind of audience would be told to calculate a number? An audience familiar with a system where letters and numbers overlap. That system existed. It was called gematria. In the ancient world, letters didn't just represent sounds, they represented numbers. So names could be turned into numerical values, and numbers could be turned back into names. Now the verse makes sense. Calculate the number. It is the number of a man. This is not mystical, it's mathematical. So let's do exactly what the text tells us to do. Let's calculate. Take the name Nero, but not in English. In Hebrew, his name is written as Neron Caesar. Each letter carries a numerical value. When you add them together, something unsettling happens. They total 6666. Exactly. Not close, not symbolic. Exact. Now pause. Because this is where the question becomes uncomfortable. If the number clearly points to Nero, why were you taught it points to someone else? Why were you told to fear a future antichrist? When the text itself tells you to calculate a man already known, let's go deeper. Who was Nero? He ruled the Roman Empire from 554 to 68 AD, and his reign wasn't just political, it was brutal. Historians like Tacitus describe him as a tyrant who blamed Christians for disasters, tortured them, and executed them publicly. Christians were burned alive, crucified, turned into human torches. Now imagine you're living under that regime. You believe in a new movement, a dangerous one, and writing openly against the emperor could get you killed. So how do you resist? You encode your message. You hide it in numbers. You write something that looks like prophecy, but reads like protest. That's Revelation. Most scholars agree it was written during a time of Roman oppression. The author, traditionally called John, was writing to communities under surveillance, under threat, under pressure. So he didn't name Nero directly. He couldn't. He encoded him. And suddenly, Revelation stops looking like a crystal ball and starts looking like resistance literature. Let's test this further. Some ancient manuscripts of Revelation don't say 666. They say 616. That seems like a problem until you understand the system. Because when Nero's name is spelled slightly differently, Nero Caesar instead of Neron Caesar, the numerical value changes. It becomes 616. Two spellings, two numbers, same man. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. So now the question becomes even sharper. If early readers could decode Nero from 666, why did later generations stop seeing it? The answer isn't simple, but it is consistent. Time passed. Empires changed. Nero died. And as history faded, the code lost its key. Without the cultural context, the number became mysterious again, and mystery invites reinterpretation. Over centuries, 666 was reimagined as a future threat, a coming antichrist, a global ruler, a figure yet to appear. But think about what that does to the text. It shifts it, from a warning about present danger to a speculation about future fear. And here's the logical question. Why would a message written to persecuted Christians warn them about someone thousands of years in the future? What good is a warning if it doesn't apply to you? What kind of prophecy tells its original audience nothing relevant to their own lives? That's the tension. Because once you see 6666 as Nero, Revelation becomes immediate, urgent, political. It becomes a document written to people in crisis, telling them, we know who the beast is, we see what's happening, you're not imagining it. And that changes everything. Because now the imagery starts to line up. The beast, the persecution, the demand for loyalty, the pressure to conform. These aren't abstract ideas, they're descriptions of empire, Roman Empire, and Nero becomes the face of it. But there's another layer. Some early traditions believed Nero would return, a myth known as Nero Redivivus, the idea that he wasn't really dead, that he would come back to power. That fear shows up in Revelation 2. The beast that was and is not and is to come, a ruler who seems defeated but returns. Now ask yourself, is that describing a supernatural monster or a political nightmare? A tyrant who never really disappears? A system that outlives the man? Because maybe the point isn't just Nero. Maybe Nero is the example, the prototype, the first face of something bigger. And that brings us to the most important question in this entire video. If 666 originally pointed to a real ruler, what does it point to now? Is it still a code? Still a warning? Still a pattern? Because history doesn't repeat, but it echoes. Power centralizes. Leaders demand loyalty. Voices get silenced. Systems rise that feel absolute. And every generation has to decide, is this just politics or something more? The danger of misunderstanding 666 isn't just theological. It's practical. If you're always looking for a future Antichrist, you might miss the systems in front of you. If you're waiting for a monster, you might ignore the machinery. And if Revelation was written as a coded protest against tyranny, then maybe its purpose wasn't fear. Maybe it was awareness. Maybe it was resistance. So let's bring this back to you. When you hear 666, what do you see? A horror story? A future villain? Or a message from the past warning you about power, control, and the cost of silence? Because the original readers didn't debate what it meant. They understood it. They felt it. They lived under it. And the number wasn't mysterious to them. It was dangerous. So dangerous it had to be hidden, encoded, protected. And somehow, over time, that danger turned into speculation. That clarity turned into confusion. And the man it pointed to became a myth instead of a memory. But now you've seen the calculation. Now you've traced the name. Now you've asked the question the text itself demands. What happens when you stop guessing and start reading? If this shifted how you see Revelation, subscribe, because there are more codes, more questions, more places where the text says one thing and tradition says another. And if someone in your life still sees 6666 as a future mystery, send them this. Not to argue, just to ask one simple question. What if the answer was already there, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be calculated?